Oh, the kids from the city would come out?
Right. Gosh, funny.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I've had them land on. Like four-wheelers, a little better.
All set, everybody?
Growing up.
Okay, all set? Good evening, and welcome to tonight's meeting of the New Prague Area School Board. Meetings are recorded and can be viewed by accessing the school board page on the district website. If you would like in the future to submit a reason to speak to the board in open forum fashion, you surely can do so. All you have to do is contact the office and make arrangements. There are a few guidelines that have to be followed, so please make sure that you're aware of those guidelines that have to be followed for the open forum. We have a rather full set of things to do during our school board meeting, including the fact that we'll be going into closed session to do some work on the looking at our work with the budget and with the negotiations. So we'll be doing that during the last part of our meeting. So at this time, I'd like to have us all stand up and go ahead and say the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Dan Call has notified us and would not be able to attend to tonight's meeting, but the other 6 of us are ready to get to work. Spotlight on success. I don't believe we have one in July, so we'll go to the approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda as written?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item passes. Next, we have the consent agenda. Has there been any change in that, Andy? Okay. I'll take a motion then to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any comments on the consent agenda? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item passes. Then we will move on to item 8, board committee reports. And I'll step forward with the first one. And the first one would deal with special education, the advisory council, and we did not have a meeting since the last school board meeting. Then the next part of the special education advisory council deals with Southwest Metro. And I attended that meeting last Tuesday, and we had a rather full meeting. We talked about different things that are happening over the summer. The main thing is that we're working very hard at Southwest Metro to fill vacancies, and we're doing a good job of doing that, and that is a big sigh of relief because we want to make sure that we have a full set of teachers all set and ready to go. Then we also worked on the superintendent's evaluation. In fact, we had a closed session to deal with that, including the superintendent who attended with us, and his evaluation came out very well. I believe he's very well respected during his first year of work at Southwest Metro, so we're very pleased with the superintendent's work thus far. We also talked about the finances, and there were a few adjustments to the budget, but nothing startling, and so we're looking at that going along very well. So all in all, it was a good meeting, and we will be doing a lot of work now in the next couple of weeks with negotiations as well. So we'll be, I'm sure, going into closed session a number of times to deal with those types of issues. Next, we have the Legislative Committee.
I can speak to that.
Fran?
We met on July 15th, and we were starting from scratch, but we have things pretty well formulated. Our next meeting will be September 15th, and I think at that point we can probably iron out our platform, which we've agreed will be funding focused and very student-centered. But as far as specifics go, we'll work that out and bring that to the board after our next meeting. Dan's recommendations as for specifics were to focus on fair funding with regard to special ed and the cross subsidy, as well as steering any new monies toward the general formula versus any new partially funded or unfunded mandates. So, but we'll dig a little bit deeper and iron things out and bring that to you in September.
Thank you, Ann. Next, we have community education
No meeting in the summer.
meeting. Okay. Early Childhood Community Coalition.
No meeting.
No meeting as well. Finance and Facilities. I and Carrie are on that committee, and we have scheduled a meeting for August. So we'll be meeting on that committee in August. Equity Committee, we did not meet with that, so no report on that one. District Advisory Committee.
Not meeting till school year.
Okay, thank you. New Prague Area Education Foundation.
No meeting recently, but we will be meeting on August 4th.
Thank you. Okay, then we'll go on to the superintendent's report, and Andy, I'll turn it over to you.
If you don't mind, Chair, I'm going to move to the podium and ask Director of Operations Craig Most to join.
Okay, thank you.
If you don't know Craig, he's really excited to be here with us.
It's all good. It's all good.
I asked Mr. Most to be here because he's going to be retiring later on this summer. I've talked about that to you in communication. And as a proud New Prague alumni, he has worked for the school districts from the spring of 2002, originally serving as the Buildings and Grounds and Transportation Director, and then moving into his current role of Director of Operations in 2014. When I think of Craig, I have three descriptors. I was thinking about this over the weekend, and there are three things that came to mind. No nonsense, passionate, and hardworking. I'll just go into these in just a minute because I promised to keep this short. I still remember in February of 23, the attendance was much like this on a frigid February evening when you were interviewing for your next superintendent. And Mr. Mueller was here, and there was this guy sitting in the back who I couldn't quite figure out who it was. And it was this guy right here. My goal early on was to make him laugh at least one time per day, and was pretty successful at that. And I quickly came to realize his professionalism and his unwavering commitment to his work and his family. He's passionate. To know him is to understand how important the New Prague Area Schools has been to him throughout his life. In fact, behind his family, particularly his grandkids, fishing and hunting, the Minnesota Vikings, the Minnesota Wild, lots of other things, right? The New Prague Area Schools has been central to who he is, and we're fortunate to have had him for the last 20 plus years. Finally, he's extremely hardworking. Probably the best testament to Craig's positive influence on our school system was the work of the Facilities Task Force this past winter. We brought a group of about 35 individuals together, and they were inundated with information, and what they quickly learned was how fortunate we are to have the facilities that we have, and thankful for them being in the great condition that they are in. This is a result of the current and former hardworking professionals that are in our buildings, in transportation, buildings and grounds, operations, so on and so forth, but this guy right here undoubtedly set a very high standard for which those individuals were able to follow. I'm going to miss our personal interactions. Whenever I need a dose of reality or some honest feedback, his office is usually one of the first places I go. And on behalf of the school district, I want to thank Craig for his service and wish him the best of luck with the future endeavors. The positive impact that he has left during his tenure is ever present and in the positive state of our buildings and grounds, and now it is our job to continue that tradition going forward. So please join me in giving a round of applause and thanking him for his service.
Could I just add one thing?
I'll say
Could I-
just a couple things if you don't mind. Go ahead.
lost a
I,
bet.
I want to add one thing. You know, Craig has worked for the district and has gotten a great reputation for the work that he's done for us. And I know for a fact that there were times when there were offers from other districts to leave New Prague and go to another place, but he decided to stay here. And that just was a wonderful thing to have your commitment to this school district. It was amazing. Thank you so much, Craig.
I appreciate it. Thank you. I'm just going to say a couple things. It's time for me to move on to something else and pass the torch to somebody else. Whoever that is, I'm going to be glad to hand it off because it's in good hands. But this isn't about the operations directors. This is about the people that we had. This is about surrounding yourself with good people. And the superintendents and the school boards that I've had over the years allowed me the latitude to do that. I never got questioned on anybody. I hired as supervisors and I brought in good people, and I sometimes let some people go that I knew shouldn't be here. And I never ever had any issues with superintendents or the school board with any of those personnel actions. And that is how this district holds together as far as facilities go. You know, the technology, transportation, they're all in great hands. So I'm going to miss it. I'm going to miss some of the people. Not going to miss all of them. I'm joking. But I do appreciate the kind words that Andy said. And yeah, it's been a long time. And Danny was on the school board when I got hired, as a matter of fact. I remember that. My brother-in-law was on the school board at that time, too. So I remember that like it was yesterday.
It does go fast. Yeah.
Yeah, that's about all I got to say.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No sunglasses?
Oh. I will find him a pair of sunglasses.
Next, thank you for recognizing Craig. Very well done. Next, we have the parent survey results. Thank you, Maren.
Good evening. I am here tonight to present an overview of the survey that we administered to families this past spring. This is an annual survey that we have compiled actually since 2014. The questions and data dates back to that long ago. And so the slides here show an overview of some of the questions from our 2025 spring data. And just for some numbers for you, we had approximately 467 families respond to the survey. So that captured about 19% of our families. Last year we captured 21%. So just as we monitor the participation data and the snapshot that this portrays, I think that data is also important. So I'll just kind of go over some of these slides and feel free to ask questions along the way, and I will try to answer them as best they can. Many of these questions encompass different areas within our district along with different departments. So the slide here on district support, you can see, right? We can see it, okay. Oh, you did have it up, I'm sorry. Yes, I will put it in that form, sorry. So this one is the overarching district programming, and in regard to student support that we're able to offer. You'll see here child safety, school meals, the cleanliness of the building, overall satisfaction with transportation, along with community ed. Our school safety went up approximately 3% from last year. District transportation went down. And so, some of these, as we look at previous years, we have a couple that went up a couple percentages, went down a couple percentages. Every year we see a little bit of fluctuation with different areas. So overall, nothing that jumped out at us largely with areas of concern. So that was very positive. The next slide on accomplishments and family involvement. Here, looking at how students are celebrated, the opportunities for involvement, that's been an area we've been really trying to increase again since COVID. Just again, welcoming families back into our building because we weren't able to for a while. And then along with disciplinary issues, are families satisfied with how those are being handled? That can be a tricky one because of just data protection. We're not always able to maybe share as much information as families want to share. So that is an area I think that can be difficult at times to measure just because of, again, the communication and what we're able to share. But overall, these three questions were down 2% from last year. And then when looking at communication, we looked at school office. If staff have a concern or if families have a concern, do they know where to go and how to? I think in this day and age, it can be sometimes overwhelming. Do I email? Do I call? Some teachers and some of our programs use apps to communicate. And so sometimes I think people are trying to figure out which way does this person maybe want to communicate. Along with the school to home communication is very much valued. The approachability of teachers. Now keep in mind, this is a snapshot of elementary and secondary. At the elementary level, that's typically one classroom teacher versus at the secondary level, we might be capturing 6, 7, 8, depending on what the child's schedule looks like with their level of support. Along with sharing timely information about children's learning. Again, this one is an area that can be tricky when we're looking whole district because at the secondary level, we do have Infinite Campus. Parents are able to check grades on a regular basis. At the elementary level, we don't turn Infinite Campus on for families. We're not updating the grade books like in the secondary realm. So I do believe that is an area when we look at our elementary, that timeliness isn't always, it's going to be more in the backpack papers, and sometimes the papers don't make it home. So there is that layer with that timely information. And just the discrepancy in our elementary versus our secondary, along with the approachability of our principals. And so all of these areas did decrease between 3 and 7% from last year, except our school to home communication did increase. And that has been definitely an initiative that we have been working very intentionally on, both school to home and district to home, in streamlining the communication both from schools and staff back to our families and making sure that they are up to speed on just all things that happen in the district in addition to their child's academic success. There's a lot of other layers that need to be communicated. On the next slide, we have the educational experience. Again, this captures our K-12, so it can really vary in terms of the offerings that we have, but all in all, looking at how a child's environment is supporting them, looking at just the high quality of education overall. How are our teachers using technology? That has always been a very high area for our district. Looking at how is the experience meeting the individual learner and looking at the supports that they're able to access. Does the teacher care about their child's success? Overall satisfaction with academic growth. And then the last question there on does the child feel safe? So earlier we asked about parents, how they are feeling, but then also how the children are feeling. And again, this is the parents are completing these questions on their behalf. So all in all, outside of the technology question, we did see a 2 to 3% drop with these questions from last year. And then our extracurricular activity slide, I think this is where we saw the most kind of up and down. Again, looking at the fine art programs, looking at clubs and organizations, and the quality of athletics, along with our children encouraged to participate. This has been a little bit more volatile just with the programming changes we have had to make, particularly at the middle school level. And so there was some volatility with this slide, particularly where we had our fine arts and club question decreased 3 to 5%, but then the quality of programming and encouragement of participation did increase 3 to 6%. And so overall, just a little bit up and down on this slide in particular. And then overall satisfaction this year was 90%, and this went up 1% from last year's question that we asked. So, any questions on this information? We are looking at changing some of the questions for next year and changing our survey, and so we'll look at just how we're able to dig into the data a little bit more. This data is shared. We're able to break it down to more of a building level, so principals are able to see where their buildings fall, particularly because there were some more questions targeted toward environment, and that can really, I can give you that district overall, but then principals are able to take that and really look and see kind of the feelings from their specific school. And so that information is shared with them. Our directors are given the information as well, because we do have some departments that are reflected in these questions as well. And then again, looking at kind of our overall now 11-year trend data, and also understanding kind of where our district was at during some of those years. And because there's been definite changes, and sometimes we can pinpoint the reason a little bit more than other years for the dips or the increases.
I have a question about the participation. That seems really low to me. I'm just wondering if maybe in looking at the survey questions, you could also look at how ways to improve the participation. I'm not suggesting incentivizing, but finding some
Yeah, the
way.
survey is anonymous.
Of
So,
course.
and I can, in looking at our trend data participation-wise, the past 4-5 years, we have ranged from 16% participation up to 19%. During the pandemic, we actually had a 66% participation rate because a lot of people had a lot to say about that year. That was the 2021 year. Pre-pandemic, the 2018-2019 year, we were at 31%. So, if we kind of compare that year to now, yes, it has decreased over 10%. So, yeah, that's something that we can look at. It's sent via email to parents and through our Infinite Campus system. That's really the only way that families are able to participate. It's all digital. Because if you have multiple children in the district, you would be asked these questions multiple times based on, if I had a child at Falcon Ridge, I would be asked a lot of those questions specific about Falcon Ridge, and then the survey asks me if I have more children, then I'm able to answer those questions on behalf of the high school, if you will. So it does, I think always with surveys, there is a time constraint for some families because there are a lot of questions to it. So.
I have a question for you,
Yeah.
but then I have comments kind of for all of us. Infinite Camp is not being used in the primary levels. What's the purpose behind that?
So at the primary levels, it's used at the semesters. It's not used daily because at the primary level, we're not adding gradebook assessments to the gradebook as frequently as we are at the secondary level. There's just, students and teachers are working through, there's retakes, there's often all the different opportunities and ways to demonstrate learning. And so we've gone back and forth, but at this time, we're not having it on. So, yeah.
Got it. What was Oh, back when we did have that, it was like 1,400 people that responded to that survey in 2020.
Yes.
Probably some of that people didn't have as much to do either, but was there anything like deployed differently to capture parents, to get their attention to take it?
During during that 2021 year when we got 60, I don't believe so. I believe it was sent the same way. I looked to Janelle. It was sent the same way that we've always sent it. Again, I really just think the time was, people were very opinionated in how that was our hybrid year. So that was that 2020, 2021 year. We started out hybrid. There was masking at the beginning of the year, the different constraints that we had. And so that I do believe is why we had because looking at the 2 years previous, we were in the 30s. So that 66 was really
Yeah.
a strong outlier. Yeah.
I don't know if there was anything else
Mm-hmm.
that we were doing, or if there's other things we can research doing
Mm-hmm.
to get a higher participation rate now and the next time we do it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's important data that we're receiving because, as an admin team, we do take the data back and we review it. The principals dive into what families are saying about their specific building. So it certainly is always helpful the more people we can capture.
When do you send this out?
This year, I believe it was end of April. This year we tried to send it, May is always so busy and the earlier we end. And so, we call it an end of year survey, but really that is really near the end of the year. So it's always kind of that late spring.
Yeah, I was wondering it, because in May,
Yeah.
probably wouldn't have
And we
done it
usually
either.
keep it open about 2 weeks.
Do
So
you
it's,
send reminders then too, saying, hey, don't forget to do this kind of a thing?
I would have to check with the, person who sends it out, but yeah. So we do keep it open it's not like a do it this weekend time, so.
I think as comments to us, to me, it's concerning that the numbers went down again. And kind of what's the game plan from there? So we had 20 of 32 that decreased out of numbers, and 5 of them were pretty decent sized. So what have you done in the past, given your past experience? Breaking out in groups, changing superintendent goals, committees.
I think as a board, we look to our individual principals and admin to dig into that data. And maybe what we should do is go back to them and say, hey, what have you seen? What are you because we get the overall data because we are, 40,000 feet up. So I would assume that this data would go to the individual administrators so that they could dig into it. Yeah.
Yes, so the principals get specific building level data that then they're able to share at their site level and reflect and evaluate.
Surveys are very important because they give you an idea where you're doing well, but then on the other hand, they give you the areas where improvement needs to be gotten, and so we don't just look at them and say, well, that's the way it is, because people do use them to look where we can improve ourselves, and that's the main goal.
I think the issue is that there's not that many parents that participate. 19% is not that high. I understand that when you get a survey in April and your school year is almost done. You've got kids in school, you're ready to be done. I'm not saying that you are, but it's like you have to figure out either they're going to take the time and make their comments known or they're going to bypass it. And I don't know how you change that.
Well, and I think too, it may only be a certain percentage, but if you were to extrapolate that out to a larger population, it might be very similar in what the percentages would be. I think my curiosity is, what do we do outside of just waiting until next year's survey as a board to measure that there's progress being done?
Anybody have some suggestions for Carrie?
Well, I trust that all of this information is being shared with the principals, so I would expect that, they're going to look at ways that they can improve in areas where they've gone down.
get reported back? Do we listen to presentations on it? Like, there's gotta be some measurable thing. Whether it's on them to like kind of orchestrate the operational side of it, but it's on us to make sure that scores are changing.
Do you have some suggestions?
Yeah, I think it's things like superintendent goals, and then cascading down to principals, working sessions to get together to talk about these broken out areas and what could possibly be done at different pieces of it. Whether that's getting together with principals and talking about it, whether it's with us. I think there's just work we can do to ensure they increase.
I can add, if I may, that this not only is it principals, I think it's directors as well. So this is a part of the principals' professional growth discussions that I have with them. This is a part of, I just sent an email to directors today that I supervise, that this will be a part of the kind of updating that process, which was one of my goals for this year, so that they're looking at the data and then strategizing at not only their building, but their department to see what we can do. I would also say that the scores have gone down in some areas. Well, the scores are still pretty good. You know, they're above 80% in most areas. And if you're looking at a survey like this, you can decide which benchmark you want to be. The participation rate is concerning to me, but it still is statistically significant to have 20% of your families who are weighing in. I think this survey needs to be, and I've said this for some time, needs to be looked at, it needs to be updated to make it more relevant. And I do think as we're doing that, we need to look at the participation and how we can increase participation rates. So those are two things. In fact, those are part of my goals for the upcoming year, for things that we're already doing.
And I don't want to, say something that is wrong as far as surveys are concerned, but, a person does get bombarded by surveys a lot nowadays. It seems like you go to the doctors or you go to some other place that provides services, and next thing you know, there's an email on your computer saying, could you please rate our, could you give us information on how you felt your experience was? And I'm not saying that that's a reason for it, but it could be that maybe we're over-surveyed. It seems like every time you turn around you are asked to fill out a survey. But, there's no excuse for somebody who does care about their schools and their children's education to, take the time to, fill out a survey and be as factual as you can about how you feel that education is going for your child. But you can't force somebody to take a survey.
If I may, one more question, because I don't know this. If the parent takes, and I don't know if you know this, other Mark, the number that we had was 467 participants. So if a parent, I have 3 children myself, if I took that, do I count as 1 or do I count as 3? Because really I'm taking that survey and it's registering for all 3 of my kids. And again, we need to work on the results and we need to work on the participation rate. But just for clarity, if it's counting as 1,
I believe it's 1, looking at the spreadsheet that I have,
That's
because we
really-
have respondents versus families.
but if they then get into the individual level, the number is underinflated.
Right.
If you're really multiplying at times, if people have multiple students in their home. The survey is something that's not to gloss over. It's not to say we don't need to work on participation. We do. At one point, it was 33%. I don't think we're going to get back to 66%. Like, I hope to not get to. That's a pretty high number. But that's some more information that we can gather for you.
And we also had some significant changes this past school year in regard to programming. We talked about with the athletic opportunities at the middle school, we changed our middle school model, we changed our intervention and support K-8. So there were a lot of significant changes that could have also impacted some of this overall data as well.
Would it be worth looking at changing it to a mid-year survey instead of end-of-year survey? I don't know.
I was thinking spring break maybe. March? I mean, that way they'd have 3/4 of the year done.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
those are things we can talk about.
Again, these are discussions we've had. Again, I've acknowledged the survey, I think, needs a reboot. but we've kept the survey as is until we identify a plan. I'd really like to look at it as if you think about it as a continuous improvement process. One of the challenges is when we do something in the spring, and as schools, principals, directors get very busy in the spring of the year to get results, then to do something meaningful with those results before the end of the year. So if we look at it as a continuous improvement process, something a little bit earlier may help. And so I think we're looking at all of those things. We've had some preliminary discussions. We can bring that to you and give your feedback on that as well.
Any other comments?
Yeah, I think, as we go out into the community, ask for money, usually the same things we're gonna be asked questions about. Like, these are voters that also, I think the sooner we can come up with a plan, maybe at one of our next working sessions we work it in, I think that's gonna prepare us too to tell a story when we.
Anybody else comment? Or thank you, Maren, for bringing this to us and going over it with us. Next, we are on item 10.2 in the first reading of policies.
Let's see. Policy 434, staff technology use. Purpose of this policy is to set forth policies and guidelines for access to the school district computer system and acceptable use of the internet. This is a local 721 policy, I believe. It's our policy, it's local, and it's reviewed annually. Questions, concerns, comments? Did I do something wrong? Andy's got a funny face.
Oh, forgive me. Go ahead, please.
Okay, this is a local policy, this is our policy, and it's reviewed annually. Questions, comments, concerns? Jean?
No.
Carrie?
No.
Jenny?
No.
Kim?
No.
Ann?
Yes.
Boy.
All right, so I'm looking at page 1 under General Statement of Policy. And the third paragraph says, all users are expected to use the technology, equipment, and technology networks in a responsible, ethical, and polite manner. 2 paragraphs later, the wording is, must be used responsibly, ethically, and legally. I would love to see the word legal added to that general statement policy, general statement of policy. So something like responsible, ethical, legal, and polite. One other thing. Section 4, so that would be the bottom of page 2. Section 4, employee supervision of student network use. I'm assuming that that refers to while the students are in the building, because I don't see how an employee could supervise students when the students are at home on their devices.
I'm not looking at the policy, but I would say that's probably a correct assumption, assuming that if something happens outside of school with the device, that there's a nexus is the term we use between school and home, that staff can get involved at some point, usually during the school day, obviously.
Right. I mean, I know there's like GoGuardian, there's software out there where you can monitor the student usage, but to monitor them at home 24/7 would be crazy.
So I think your assumption is correct.
I would like to see some wording to that effect then maybe, while,
In school or during
Yeah.
school hours, something.
during school hours or while the student is in the building. On site. Yeah, it's on page 2. It's at the very, very, very bottom. It's section 4. It says employee supervision of student network use.
Okay.
And
I guess I looked at that when I read it as, if my students are doing something online for class, if they have a group chat or something on a piece of literature or something, I should monitor that in the same way as I would monitor any group work in front of me, because I can see it. So, and that might be done outside of school. That might be, hey, here's your assignment, here's your groups, go and do it. So I assume that maybe that's where that's coming from, is that I'm responsible for what happens within that chat then.
Okay.
I think it sounds more broad, just as usage. Point, Ann. Like even in the classroom, if you all break out to do different things on your.
Okay. I was just envisioning inappropriate use at home.
Can you say while doing schoolwork? Because I think part of the disciplinary problem we might have is that there might be bullying going on school laptops for school discussions that might have something to do, that will probably have something to do with the classwork itself.
Which could be going on at home.
Yeah. Or in a study hall outside of school sometime. I don't know that necessarily it would be wrong to add what you want, so we could do that.
Let's just play with it a little bit, take another look at that. And then on page 3, under section 5, letter B, security, number 1 says electronic mail, voicemail, and telecommunications are not to be used to share confidential information about students. I'm wondering, I mean, pretty much everything about students is confidential, but isn't email kind of the general form of communication with parents and I mean, if there is a behavior issue, wouldn't a teacher communicate that to administration via email?
Again, I'm not looking at what you're reading, so I think the policy committee can take it back and look at it.
Okay.
I'd have to have a little bit more background before so your question, Director Christie, is?
Well, the way I read it is that as a teacher, I would not be allowed to say anything confidential about a student in an email.
I wonder
Period.
if the word confidential is what we have to focus on. Does confidential mean non-public? That has to do with public data.
Yeah.
Because I know we weren't, there were times where we weren't allowed to put students' names on.
Oh, for sure.
So maybe the word confidential is what we need to have.
Okay, should we take a look at that?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And the only other thing is more of a question. In number 4, it talks about periodic phishing campaign simulations. Dr. Volmuth, any idea how often they conduct those? I'm just curious.
I can get that information for you. I don't know.
Okay.
It's part of, I don't think it's quarterly
Okay.
for everyone, I don't believe.
Says in here, training on a quarterly basis. Are you talking about conducting the actual testing?
Periodic phishing campaign simulations.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, so the training happens on an ongoing and regular basis. How often every employee gets fished,
Fake
if you will?
Fished.
You
They
made
get
that into a
fished? I
verb.
don't know that. I think it's random
Yeah.
based on, I don't think there's a set standard for each individual gets X time. I will check that. But I'm pretty confident in that. I don't think I've been fished for some time, but now I'm starting to question.
Janelle, how about you?
I flag a few that are fishing, yeah.
All right, thank you. That's
Good
it.
to go?
That's it.
Everybody good? All right.
Good.
Policy 475, professional conference travel. Purpose of this policy is to establish controls for travel by school personnel, board members, and staff as required by law. This is again a local policy that is reviewed annually.
Yes. Send me home now. Under number 2, general statement of policy, number 5 says, provide teachers with appropriate management and financial management skills so as to participate in budgetary decisions. Why just teachers? Why not all of the above? Because under purpose, it says by school personnel, board members, and staff. Why not
Right.
all?
So you'd like to use the word staff in that one too?
Well, all school personnel.
Well,
Yeah? No?
Good catch. Also, there's no
Why just
spaces
do
between
this?
achievement.
Yeah. But up in,
school board
oh,
achievement of
okay.
the teachers are units.
But as a school board member, I would certainly like to.
We're gonna fish you too.
Uh-oh.
Number,
And that's it for me.
okay, Kim?
No.
good.
Good, okay. 506, student discipline. There's also a form that goes with this one, just to be aware. Purpose of this policy is to ensure that students are aware of and comply with the school district's expectations for student conduct. Such compliance will enhance the school district's ability to maintain discipline and ensure that there is no interference with the educational process. The school district will take appropriate disciplinary action when students fail to adhere to the code of student conduct established by this policy. This is a mandatory policy that is reviewed annually. I believe the sample form was created by us, though. That's created locally, I think. Made that up, but I think that's true. Go with that. Questions, comments?
So you're referencing the notice of suspension form and that,
It says sample across the top, so I thought.
but it matches the MSBA's recommendation for that particular form.
Okay.
Statute on the bottom of the form. It shows the statute on the bottom of the form.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. Where am I, Jean?
Which one were we doing? Oh, just the
Dis-
form.
Discipline.
Just the form, right?
No, we're doing both.
506.
506, okay. So I'm gonna get messy at some point and cross over between handbooks and policies, but I'll keep the policy part of it clean and just ask the questions I have for that.
Okay.
We currently don't have a school-funded resource officer, correct? We do. Like, what, how many hours?
Officer Ambrose is at the high school on a very regular basis. I don't know what the exact breakdown of hours is, but yes, we've had a school resource officer for the last several years. I can get that information for you. I believe it's full-time during the school day.
Oh, okay.
Is that paid for just by us?
It's a combination of the city and the school district,
Yep.
and that's negotiated, I think, every 3 years. So we haven't talked about that for some time, but I believe we have another year left on that contract.
I think it was in the budget cuts at one point, so did it just not get cut?
That was
Correct.
not a part of the budget cuts when I was the superintendent, so it was the round before. I think it was a
With Superintendent Dickman.
It was a discussion about the negotiation with the city of the funding, what percent the
Yes.
city did and what percent the school district did. I can get that information for you. I don't have that available. It wasn't a part of the reductions that we made.
Okay. It is 11-0. That's the unscheduled student removal from class. I believe in the MSBA policy, it said that schools can add that section in. Find the exact wording if you. 11-0.
506-13.
Yeah, it says the 2024 Minnesota Legislature enacted the provision which doesn't require a school board to adopt the policy language.
That's
School
in the-
districts,
That's in the note?
yeah,
Yep.
school districts may determine whether to adopt the policy language. Is there a reason we're not adding that into ours?
I don't know. You like to?
I can remind the policy committee, if you meant not to jump in, forgive me. But we made the decision at the policy committee to take that out because it was trying to align the policies as we've done in the past. And if it was a choice just to simplify the policies, I'm speaking on behalf of the policy committee, I don't want to, please jump in, but we have chosen to take those things out if they're not, we didn't deem them to be necessary. And that's Karen, Kim, that's the discussion we had,
It's
correct?
an option that we could certainly put them in after discussion.
Yeah.
But that's why it was originally taken out
Right.
at this point.
Okay, I'll look at it more for our working session one. For that one.
Okay,
No. I don't even know what I'm saying anymore.
No.
No.
I'm good.
I have
All right.
nothing. Sorry.
That's 506. 722, public data and data subject requests, and there's a form with that too. School district recognizes its responsibility relative to the collection, maintenance, and dissemination of public data as provided in state statutes. This is a mandatory policy. Questions, concerns, Anne?
None.
Kim?
No.
no,
806, crisis management policy. The purpose of this model crisis management policy is to act as a guide for school district and building administrators, school employees, students, school board members, and community members to address a wide range of potential crisis situations in the school district. The step-by-step procedures suggested by this policy will provide guidance to each school building in drafting crisis management plans to coordinate protective actions prior to, during, and after any type of emergency or potential crisis situation. Each school district should develop tailored building-specific crisis management plans for each school building in the school district, and sections or procedures may be added or deleted in those crisis management plans based on building needs. The school district will, to the extent possible, engage in ongoing emergency planning within school district and with emergency responders and other relevant community organizations. The school district will ensure that relevant emergency responders in the community have access to their building-specific management plans and will provide training to the school district staff to enable them to act appropriately in the event of a crisis. This is a mandatory policy that is reviewed annually. Jean?
Good.
Harry?
Do we have those by building?
Crisis management plans by building.
No.
I believe that would be the case. I don't have them with me at this point, but I can check on that and bring that to that.
Circulate
Yeah.
that when you do? That'd be great.
I will bring that to our group. I won't necessarily circulate it, because we don't make our plans public.
Sure,
As to-
however, we
yeah,
can take a
sure.
look at them.
That it?
very important, and I believe it's being carried out quite well.
No.
Is this like a local policy, or is this,
Policy is mandatory, and then the local,
okay.
what we do building by building,
Well, I was
specific plan.
just curious about some verbiage in here. It seems dated to me. I'm looking at page 4, number 8 on page 4. The example of a switchboard.
Oh.
Do we still have a switchboard? I'm just thinking that we might want to. Update somewhere.
That might be Janelle.
You're
Again,
pulling things out. Hello.
Switchboard.
I think I would go back to, this is an MSBA policy, so we have traditionally,
Just followed,
the practice until MSBA updates that
okay.
that verbiage, have
I-
kept the language as is, and again, policy committee jumped
Okay.
in. But that has been the practice of
Yeah.
the policy committee.
That's what I was guessing.
They're putting in this as an example.
Yes.
Is there a
yes.
better word than
Well.
switchboard for us to use?
Communication center.
Do we have one of those?
Janelle.
Janelle. Can we just put her name in? For example, Janelle.
Well, and this is a MSBA policy, so it doesn't just apply to us.
Right, just leave it.
So somebody could have one for,
And it
Some
talks
odd
about
reason.
which staff will be in the building to do different functions. So if in fact there are crisis management policies, I would assume that detail would be, has to stay there.
The top of the next page, it talks about a CD-ROM, and I just thought, but same thing, yeah.
No, because we don't want to make these things public.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
The older building plans are on CD though. Some of the older building plans are on CD, traditionally anyway.
All right, anybody else, anything else? Did I get everybody on that one? I can't remember where I started. Were you the last one on that?
Yes.
Okay, 902, use of school district facilities and equipment. Purpose of this facility is to provide guidelines for community use of school facilities and equipment. Policy itself is a legislative policy, but the complete guidebook that we were given, that came along, has all the specific details. I assume that guidebook was produced locally. It's all the specifics for us. Okay. It's legislative, by the way. Questions, concerns, Anne?
None.
Kim?
No.
Danny?
Good,
Carrie?
Nope.
Jean? Good. All right, that's it.
thank you.
Yep.
Okay, now we'll go on to item 11, 11.1, and this group now will be dealing with the different handbooks that we have. And the first one is the approval of the 2025-26 New Prague Elementary Handbook. I guess I'm going to ask for a motion to approve it. And we'll do that after the motion.
I move that we approve this.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on the handbook?
Not this one in particular. In general, what is the school board's role in reviewing these?
To approve it after it's been written by the schools?
Not to review it, not to, what level of
Oh,
review?
absolutely. We can, if there's something that is not to your specifications or something that you do not agree with, you surely can bring it up.
Sure, I'm just thinking what
No,
the
that's
framework
a-
to that is.
no,
Is
that's-
each of us taking the manual or the handbook, reading through it, looking for all the changes, seeing what policy, because it's important in the handbook, and then bringing our feedback here to talk about it. Is that where we're all at?
I think so.
Pretty much like a policy,
Yes.
you know.
Yeah.
With the handbooks, who is the one who writes them generally?
It would be the administration in the building, I would imagine.
Yeah, they're not written every year. Obviously, they're updated every year. They're created based on the director or the principal at the buildings are the ones that we refer to are responsible, and they make changes throughout the year. So they're kind of a compilation of information that has been developed over time with feedback from the board based on information that we've had.
And I would imagine by the time it gets to us, it's been looked at, scrutinized, reviewed. The principals, I would imagine, is it safe to assume, are supporting these handbooks fully?
It would be the principal or director's work that they're putting forward for their particular site based on the information that they have and the information that they've been given in the past. So if there was information or discussion that needed to be had in the past by a board, then principals would have had that, embedded that information if it was relevant and germane to their particular site. So I would say that this is their work that they're putting forward on behalf of elementary schools. So the elementary principals collaborated, high school principals, middle school principals, so on and so forth.
Great, and I would imagine that they also have reached out to local school districts if they need advice. They're
Yeah.
consulting with people to make sure these are sound handbooks by the time they get here.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things and one of the changes that we've made is they've also worked, I know some of them have, I know Mr. Thorstad in particular, and I don't know to what extent, I can get that information for you, has worked to model some of it after MSBA's model policy in terms of not model policy, but model handbook. That was a resource that we provided for them to ensure that there's alignment, so some legal alignment as well.
Thank you.
The last time somebody went through these and
I think the MSBA piece is newer to New Prague, like did we purchase it this year for the first time? So that everyone in the audience hears, we think this is the first year that the MSBA has really pushed this, and so I believe the administrators who worked on this used that as a reference point as they went through their handbooks this year. I think they take it very seriously. I do. They spend a lot of time on this. They don't rewrite it every year, right, because there's some things that they carry forward, but they do go in and look to update them.
Thank you.
Something like the behavioral policy. A lot of districts have, and even in the MSBA model handbook, it says that you are supposed to insert your policy. And that's not the case in ours. And there's also like varying degrees of minimum and maximum behavioral corrections that aren't really detailed out in like different levels and like who makes the decision between what the punishment is that fits that crime at that time. I just feel like not that there's a ton of work that goes into it. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just thinking about our policies and how those are in what the representation is that we want. Another one's the dress code. So like our model policy for the dress code varies from what we have in the high school.
You talking about the school board policy?
I'd
Which
have
I
to
know
go back
that
and,
I've gotten from a lot of parents is a big issue. And there's stuff in the model policy that would help mitigate that. That's not in our handbooks.
I'd have to go back and reread that. That's the first I've heard. In fact, the previous discussions we've had about the handbook in terms of the dress code was there were positive changes made that the board in the past was more agreeable to. So if there's some discrepancies, I'd have to go back and research that. That's new information.
It's been my
Really not
understanding that,
disagreeing with you, Director Cuff, but that's new, and we can look at that. The tenor of the previous discussion around the handbooks where they were significantly improved.
I think for me, it's just hard for like within a 3-day period. I was gone this weekend to be able to put the time into these to feel confident to vote. That I have no.
in the past, it's been, if there's been a major change in a handbook, the administrator from that building will come to our meeting actually and talk about the change that has occurred because of a need or something that has come up in the handbook. So usually these handbooks are doing fine unless there has to be an upgrade, and then we're notified of that upgrade. And
We saw an example of this with the cell phone policy.
Right.
yes, there you go, that'd be a
And
perfect
gave us all
example.
that information.
Yeah.
So I think they would be certainly willing to come in and talk to us about any questions we would have. We would just have to bring them up.
Right.
I think if I remember correctly, we also saw that when the high school handbook was updated 2 years ago, Mr. Thorstad came and
Yes, he
talked
came
about
to the meeting.
significant changes. So if that's the will of the board and that's what you'd like us to do when those changes are made, we can do that. Just need to have that information.
I think otherwise, I believe that the handbooks are pretty much the same that they were last year. And if there would have been any major changes, we would have been notified of those major changes, the way I look at it, from other experiences that I've had.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. I think the major changes that have been reflected are most of the work that you decided around cell phones. And the administrators worked to match that language in their handbooks is really probably the most significant change that I'm aware of in the handbooks this year.
Any other comments or questions?
Just that, would you look up that stuff about dress code? Give us that information about dress code?
I
Whether it
need
matches
to
or
know,
doesn't.
Director Cobb, would you mind sharing some more detail? You can
Definitely.
email me and look up and then more specifics about the discrepancies, and I'm happy to look into it.
And I think if you give me a week to be able to go through these and spend some actual time in it, I would love to give you all that feedback.
Sure.
Not rewrite them by any means, but, to really pull out the things that are policy related so that we know that what we're making here is enacted within the school, I think would be important. But happy to put that together.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any further questions or comments? If not, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
I'm gonna say nay for now.
Item passes 5-1. Next, we have 11.2, approval of the 225-26 New Prague Middle School Handbook. Any questions or comments about this one?
I thought this one was very well written as well.
If no other comments, all in favor? No. I have a motion to approve the 25-26 New Prague Middle School Handbook.
So moved.
Is there a
Second.
second? It's been moved and seconded. Any further comments at this time? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Item 11.3, approval of the 2025-26 New Prague Middle School Activities Athletics Handbook. Accept the motion to approve this.
So
So
moved.
moved.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments of this handbook? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item passes 6-0. 11.4, approval of the 2025-26 New Prague High School Handbook. I'll take a motion to approve this handbook.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further comments or questions about the high school handbook? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Item passes 5-1. Next, we go down to 11.5, and that is the, roll it down for myself here. Approval of the 2025-26 Compass Learning Center Handbook. Do I have a motion to approve the Compass Learning Center Handbook?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any comments or questions about this one? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Item passes 5-1. Next, we have item 11.6, approval of the 2025-26 New Prague High School Activities Athletics Handbook. Do I have a motion to approve this?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments of the handbook? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item passes 6-0. Next one, 11.7, the approval of the 2025-26 New Prague Coaches Advisors Handbook. Do I have a motion to approve this?
So moved. Second.
Been moved and seconded. Are there any questions or comments of this one? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Item passes 6-0. Next is 11.8, approval of the 2025-26 New Prague Transportation Department Parent Handbook. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further questions or comments of this handbook? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item passes 6-0. Next, we have 11.9, approval of the 2025-26 New Prague Transportation Department Employee Manual. Do I have a motion to approve?
So
So-
moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further comments or questions? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Item passes 6-0. Next is item 1110, we're done with the employee manual. Now we're going to go on to item 1110, the resolution relating to the establishing of a location for absentee voting for school district elections not held on the day of a statewide election. And in the absence of Dan Call, I've asked Jean Schmidt to do the role of the clerk. Please take it away.
This, again, repeating, is a resolution relating to establishing the location for absentee voting for school district elections not held on the day of a statewide election. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Seconded.
Be it resolved by the School Board of Independent School District 721, Minnesota, New Prague Area Schools, Minnesota, as follows. It is hereby found, determined, and declared that the board hereby establishes ISD number 721 District Offices, 410 Central Avenue North, New Prague, Minnesota, 56071, as a location for absentee voting from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m., Monday through Friday, with respect to school district elections not held on the day of a statewide election.
For roll call vote.
Carrie? What's your answer? How do you vote?
Do I say yes or no? Or, yes, yes.
Jenny?
Yes.
Kim?
Yes.
And Karen?
Yes.
Item passes. Jean?
Yes, yep.
Item passes 6-0. Thank you. Now, we're going to be going to closed session, so we're going to temporarily adjourn the open session. And after we have a vote on Closing the session, we will take a short break and then meet to discuss negotiations. Okay, do I have a motion to go into closed session?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any comments? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We'll be going into closed session in a couple of minutes, and we'll be discussing negotiations.
Yay or nay or?
You know what? I didn't.